Today we dive into the documentary of how the U.S. President Donald Trump ended up sending more Americans to Philippines. But before we start, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's see how far this discussion reaches. The U.S. President Donald Trump made an offhand comment about the Philippines during one of his fiery speeches. Nobody expected what would follow. What began as a political jab quickly turned into a viral conversation. One that sparked curiosity, debate, and eventually an unexpected cultural movement. Millions of Americans who had never even considered the Philippines suddenly found themselves searching for videos, stories, and travel guides about the country. Trump intended his words as criticism, but instead he triggered something far more fascinating, a wave of intrigue that would push Americans across social media, YouTube, and TikTok to ask, what's really happening in the Philippines? And that question would rewrite travel patterns, education choices, and even retirement plans for thousands. The moment the clip surfaced, reactions exploded online. Some viewers laughed, others argued, but a massive number simply became curious. What was the Philippines really like? Was Trump exaggerating? Or had Americans been overlooking something important about this Southeast Asian country? Within hours, bloggers, vloggers, and reaction channels uploaded videos analyzing the comment. Filipino creators responded proudly, showcasing their culture. American YouTubers living in Manila began posting videos titled, "Here's What Trump Didn't Tell You About the Philippines." The surge of attention created a digital domino effect that no one, including Trump, could have predicted. The Philippines was suddenly trending everywhere. Americans who clicked out of curiosity found themselves discovering things they didn't expect. Instead of chaos or danger, video after video showed friendly locals, breathtaking landscapes, low cost of living, English-speaking communities, and modern cities with surprising levels of development. Many viewers were stunned to learn that Manila's skyline rivaled major American cities, while that the Philippines was home to some of the world's largest malls, fastest-growing economies, and most welcoming people. As one viewer commented under a viral video, "Wait, why does the Philippines look better than half of America right now?" The more people explored, the more they realized how misinformed they had been. Filipino hospitality played a huge role in this sudden fascination. Americans were shocked by how warmly Filipinos welcomed foreigners in their vlogs. Travelers recorded locals offering directions, food, rides, and even invitations to family gatherings. Many Americans wrote, "This is the friendliest country I've ever seen." A short clip of a Filipino tricycle driver refusing a tip because "You're already a guest in my country" went viral nationwide. Suddenly, Trump's negative portrayal seemed completely out of sync with reality. Viewers began questioning whether the narrative they had believed for years was inaccurate, and whether the Philippines deserved a fresh look. Travel influencers quickly capitalized on the trend. Channels like The Juicy Vlog, Making It Happen, and dozens of American expat vloggers posted daily content explaining the truth behind Philippine culture. Their videos weren't just fun, they were eye-opening. They showed affordable beachfront condos, delicious local food, first-class hospitals, international schools, and thriving business districts. But what captivated American audiences most were the human stories. The kindness, resilience, and joy that Filipinos carried even in the face of challenges. These vlogs painted a picture of a country rich not only in beauty, but in spirit, and Americans found this deeply refreshing. Before long, U.S. travel sites released data showing an unusual pattern. Searches for flights to Manila, Cebu, Clark, and Davao increased dramatically. Airlines reported upticks in U.S. Philippines bookings, and travel agencies noted a surge in inquiries. What started as a political comment had now become a genuine travel wave. Even older Americans, retirees, veterans, and long-term travelers began considering the Philippines as a potential new home. They learned that the Philippines offer retirement visas, affordable health care, English-speaking nurses, and tropical living at a fraction of U.S. costs. Trump hadn't intended to promote the Philippines, but the effect was undeniable. But why did Trump's remark have such an impact? The answer lies in timing. The U.S. was facing rising costs of living, political tension, social division, and burnout. Many Americans felt exhausted and disappointed. So when they discovered videos showing Filipinos smiling, celebrating small joys, and prioritizing community, they couldn't help but feel drawn in. The Philippines represented something Americans felt they had lost: warmth, connection, and simplicity. As one American TikToker said, "The Philippines looks like the version of America we wish existed." In a strange twist, Trump's criticism pushed Americans towards something they subconsciously needed: hope. Political analysts were baffled. A comment meant to warn Americans ended up attracting them instead. Filipino communities joked, "Trump accidentally became our tourism ambassador." But beyond humor, experts noticed a deeper truth. Americans were no longer satisfied with filtered narratives. They wanted first-hand experience. They began connecting with Filipinos through comments, live streams, and online communities. Many discovered that millions of Filipinos spoke near-native English, making communication smooth and friendly. The barrier that slows tourism in many Asian countries simply didn't exist here. Americans could visit the Philippines and feel immediately understood. The interest grew even more when teachers, nurses, and corporate workers shared testimonials. They spoke about Filipino co-workers being hardworking, cheerful, respectful, and empathetic. Stories of Filipino nurses saving lives, Filipino call center agents adapting accents, and Filipino caregivers treating seniors like family went viral. Americans began associating the Philippines not with negativity, but with kindness, loyalty, and service. Trump's comments unintentionally highlighted how deeply embedded Filipinos were in American society, as nurses, teachers, military members, and healthcare workers. This realization made many Americans feel a heartfelt connection to the Philippines they had never noticed before. Meanwhile, Filipino-Americans began sharing emotional stories online. They talked about their parents' sacrifices, their culture's values, and the love they still had for their homeland. Their stories reached millions. Americans who once knew nothing about Filipino culture suddenly felt inspired. They began researching Filipino traditions, fiestas, food, and languages. Videos of lechon, halo-halo, jeepneys, and boodle fights reached American audiences who had never seen anything like them. The Philippines wasn't just a destination anymore. It was becoming a cultural fascination. The more Americans learned, the more they wanted to experience it themselves. As curiosity grew, another unexpected group joined the movement: American digital nomads. These remote workers, tired of high U.S. rent and isolation, were stunned to discover that the Philippines offered fast internet hubs, co-working spaces, beachfront cafes, and incredibly affordable living. Videos of Americans working on laptops along the white shores of Siargao and Palawan went viral. They posted income comparisons showing how far their salaries stretched in the Philippines versus New York or Los Angeles. Many said, "I feel richer in the Philippines even though I earn the same." It wasn't luxury. They felt freedom. Trump's comment had ironically revealed a hidden paradise for remote workers searching for quality of life. The fascination didn't stop with nomads. American families began posting about moving to the Philippines for their children's education. International schools in Manila, Cebu, and Clark offered world-class curricula at a fraction of U.S. private school prices. Parents were amazed by campuses with modern facilities, bilingual instruction, and a strong emphasis on values and community. Many said their children thrived academically and socially because Filipinos treated classmates like siblings. The cultural warmth resonated deeply with American families. Trump had painted the Philippines as unsafe, but parents found it the opposite: structured, friendly, protective, and deeply community-oriented. The contrast between fear and reality shocked many viewers. Then came the retirees. As prices skyrocketed across the U.S., thousands of retirees looked abroad for affordable living. The Philippines suddenly appeared at the top of their list. They learned about the SRRV retirement visa, low-cost health care, English-speaking nurses, and communities specifically built for foreign retirees. Videos showed U.S. veterans relaxing in Subic, couples enjoying sunsets in Debunking, and seniors happily integrating into Filipino neighborhoods. Many retirees said they felt more alive in the Philippines because people constantly included them, inviting them to fiestas, karaoke nights, and family gatherings. For older Americans who often felt invisible back home, the Philippines offered something priceless: belonging. Economists soon noticed a shift. Travel agencies reported record Filipino-bound bookings, and businesses catering to Americans, long-stay apartments, medical tourism, and language schools saw increasing demand. But the most surprising development came from the media. U.S. news outlets began airing segments titled, "Why Americans Are Suddenly Interested in the Philippines." Instead of negativity, journalists highlighted tourism growth, the hospitality industry, and the welcoming nature of Filipinos. Interviews with visiting Americans featured comments like, "Everyone here treats you like family, and this place is so different from what I expected." Trump had unintentionally sparked a nationwide realization: Americans have been drastically misinformed about the Philippines. Social media continued shaping the trend. TikTok became a major platform where Filipinos showcased their culture with pride. Videos featuring Filipino humor, unique expressions like "Kain Teo" or "Tara Na," and heartwarming family dynamics captured millions of views. Americans left comments saying, "This reminds me of the old America," or "I wish we had this level of joy." Many connected deeply with the Filipino spirit. Resilient, cheerful, and always ready to help. The more Americans watched, the more they admired the culture. Trump's attempt to criticize the Philippines had instead placed Filipino culture directly into the spotlight, and people loved what they saw. Travel vloggers kept posting compelling evidence of why Americans were flocking to Philippines. Videos showed immaculate beaches, world-famous diving sites, bustling night markets, and historic cities filled with Spanish-era architecture. Some Americans were shocked to learn that Cebu, Iloilo, and Davao were safer than many major U.S. cities. Others were surprised to see how big and modern Manila was, with skyscrapers, luxury malls, and international restaurants. "Why did nobody tell us about this?" became a repeated comment on travel videos. This wasn't a third world dystopia. It was a vibrant, rapidly modernizing country with undeniably rich culture. What truly sealed the growing affection was the human connection. Americans who visited often shared emotional stories of Filipinos, helping them during difficult moments. Drivers returning lost wallets, strangers offering food during storms, or families inviting travelers into their homes during holidays. These moments went viral, reinforcing the idea that Filipino kindness was unlike anything many Americans had experienced. People began traveling just to experience the hospitality. Trump had inadvertently pushed millions to discover a culture where warmth was an exception. It was a national identity. And many Americans said that this cultural connection mattered more than tourist attractions. Not long after, YouTube analysts noticed something remarkable. Videos about the Philippines were suddenly outperforming videos about popular destinations like Thailand, Japan, or Mexico. The U.S. audience wanted Filipino content, Filipino reactions, Filipino English, Filipino family culture, Filipino food reviews, Filipino street tours. Even Americans who never planned to travel found themselves hooked. Why? Because Filipino culture felt refreshing during a time when Americans felt divided and exhausted. The Philippines showed unity, happiness, gratitude, and simplicity, values Americans long for. And so, the Philippines became not just a travel trend, but an emotional refuge. Meanwhile, Trump supporters and critics argued online about the meaning of his comment. Some said he accidentally encouraged Americans to explore the world. Others said he underestimated the Filipino spirit. But regardless of intention, the effect was undeniable. His remark became the catalyst for one of the largest cultural curiosity waves about the Philippines in modern U.S. history. It was rare for a political statement to influence tourism so directly, yet here it was, Americans booking flights, subscribing to Filipino channels, learning Tagalog words like salamat, and publicly praising the culture Trump expected them to fear. By now, the Philippines had become a digital phenomenon in the United States. Schools invited Filipino speakers to share cultural insights. Travel agencies launched Discover the Philippines packages. Even Hollywood celebrities began mentioning the country, either through tours, endorsements, or personal visits. Americans realized the Philippines wasn't just another destination. It was a global community with a unique heart. Trump may have sparked the conversation, but it was Filipinos, their warmth, humor, and humanity, who kept Americans captivated. And the story was far from over. As more Americans traveled to Manila, Cebu, and Davao, something unexpected emerged. Many said the Philippines reminded them of the U.S. during the 1980s and 90s. They described the environment as friendly, safe, family-centered, and community-driven. Children played outside freely, neighbors greeted each other, and people shared food during simple gatherings. Americans repeatedly said, "This feels like what we lost back home." That emotional nostalgia became one of the strongest reasons the Philippines kept drawing visitors. It wasn't just a country. They saw it as a memory of what life used to feel like. Simple, social, joyful, and full of human connection. No political statement could undo that impact. American vloggers began creating full documentary-style videos exploring the Filipino way of life. They highlighted the importance of bayanihan, community cooperation, and how Filipinos helped each other without expecting anything in return. They showed how Filipino families remained tightly knit, with grandparents, parents, and children living harmoniously under one roof. Americans watching these videos felt emotionally moved, with many commenting that their own society had become too individualistic. The contrast was powerful. In a world where loneliness was rising, the Philippines stood out as a place where no one was ever truly alone. And this emotional revelation kept inspiring Americans to visit. Restaurants across the U.S. began experiencing a surge in curiosity about Filipino food. Dishes like adobo, sinigang, lechon, halo, pancit, and lumpia started trending on YouTube and TikTok food channels. Americans were shocked by how flavorful, comforting, and soulful Filipino cuisine was. Some influencers even called it the most underrated food culture in Asia. This culinary fascination pushed more Americans to travel to the Philippines just to taste the dishes in their authentic form. Trump may have unintentionally insulted the country, but Americans were now celebrating its flavors, one plate at a time. Food became another powerful bridge between the two nations. At the same time, American YouTubers living in the Philippines documented the cost of living in detailed breakdowns. Viewers couldn't believe how far their money stretched. Beachfront apartments for the price of U.S. storage units, full meals for a few dollars, affordable transportation, and high-quality yet inexpensive health care. These videos exploded online. Many Americans began saying, "Why am I paying so much to struggle back home when I could live comfortably there?" The more people saw the value, the more the Philippines became not just a destination, but a potential new home. Trump's comment had opened a door Americans didn't expect to walk through. Major U.S. media outlets soon picked up on the trend. Articles appeared with titles like, "Why Americans Are Suddenly Moving to the Philippines," and "Could the Philippines Be the Next Global Haven for Expats?" Instead of reinforcing Trump's negativity, reporters described the Philippines as welcoming, English-speaking, culturally rich, and rapidly modernizing. They showcased booming tech hubs in Metro Manila, eco-tourism projects in Palawan, and infrastructure expansions like the new airports and highways. These stories painted a different narrative, one that portrayed the Philippines as a rising nation, not a struggling one. Americans realized they had underestimated the country for decades. Meanwhile, social media personalities began debunking stereotypes about the Philippines. They revealed that the country had world-class medical facilities, luxury resorts, multinational companies, award-winning artists, and some of the most beautiful islands on Earth. Americans who once believed outdated images were shocked to see modern skylines, clean business districts, global franchises, and competitive universities. This new perspective replaced ignorance with admiration. Trump's negative statement had unexpectedly ignited a global re-education. Americans now wanted to learn, explore, and experience the truth for themselves, and their discoveries were reshaping public perception worldwide. Another surprising group drawn to the Philippines were American teachers and students. They traveled for cultural immersion programs, volunteer work, and exchange projects. Many were fascinated by Filipino hospitality and kindness. Some schools partner with Filipino institutions for collaborative online learning. Teachers said Filipino students were among the most respectful and hardworking they'd ever encountered. Students returned home describing the Philippines as life-changing, praising how Filipino families treated them as their own. These educational exchanges created friendships across cultures. Trump may have expected Americans to stay away from the Philippines, yet young Americans were arriving in growing numbers, hungry to learn. Americans also discovered the emotional depth of Filipino resilience. Documentaries captured stories of communities rebuilding after typhoons, families supporting each other through hardships, and people maintaining joy despite challenges. These stories inspired viewers across the U.S. Many Americans commented, "If Filipinos can stay strong through everything they face, why can't we be more grateful?" Filipino resilience became a global lesson in positivity. Instead of scaring Americans away, Trump's statement unintentionally brought worldwide admiration for the Filipino spirit. What was meant as an insult became a doorway to respect. One of the most impactful moments came when several American veterans posted videos praising Filipino healthcare workers. They described nurses, caregivers, and medical staff who treated them not only with professionalism, but with genuine affection. Many said they felt safer and better cared for in the Philippines than in some U.S. facilities. This emotional testimony reached millions and strengthened the connection between the two nations. For viewers, the message was clear. The Philippines wasn't a dangerous place. It was a place where compassion thrived. Public opinion continued shifting rapidly in the country's favor. As the trend grew, American content creators developed full travel series about the Philippines. Some explored island-hopping adventures. Others created deep cultural documentaries. And many simply shared their daily life as expats. These videos received millions of views. The Philippines became one of the most searched travel topics in the U.S. Trump's comment, originally intended to spark fear, now sparked massive interest. The country wasn't being avoided. It was being celebrated. And Americans who visited often said the same thing. The Philippines feels like home. Political analysts began acknowledging the irony. Trump's comment, which was supposed to push people away from the Philippines, had become a turning point in how Americans viewed the country. It challenged old stereotypes and forced people to question what they thought they knew. Instead of fear, curiosity grew. Instead of avoidance, admiration spread. Whether or not one agreed with Trump, the outcome was undeniable. Americans were exploring the Philippines in record numbers and sharing the reality they found. That reality didn't match the negativity. It matched kindness, beauty, modernization, and community. In fact, real estate developers in the Philippines reported rising interest from U.S. buyers. Condominiums in Manila, Cebu, and Davao became hot topics among American investors searching for affordable properties with high value. Retirees purchased homes in Batangas, Cavite, and Dumaguete. Digital nomads look for long-term rentals in Siargao and Bohol. The Philippine lifestyle was becoming not just a trend, but a long-term dream. Americans were no longer traveling just for tourism. They were building roots. And social media amplified every success story, drawing even more people to the country. At the same time, Filipinos living in the U.S. noticed a surprising change. Americans were suddenly asking them sincere questions about their culture. Instead of jokes, there was curiosity. Instead of stereotypes, there was respect. Filipino workers felt more appreciated, and many said they proudly explained their heritage. This cultural exchange strengthened friendships and closed gaps in understanding. Trump's statement may have tried to paint the Philippines in a negative light, but what it really did was open conversations that needed to happen long ago. Americans learned, Filipinos explained, and bridges formed. Journalists continued investigating the trend and discovered profound truth. Americans weren't just attracted to the Philippines for practical reasons. They were drawn to the emotional atmosphere. Filipinos celebrated life even during hard times. They valued relationships over money. They welcomed strangers with genuine warmth. In a world where many Americans felt disconnected or stressed, the Philippines offered something rare: human connection. That emotional pull became the strongest reason Americans kept visiting, returning, and even relocating permanently. As more stories surfaced, major U.S. influencers publicly praised the Philippines. Some described it as the friendliest country in the world. Others called it the most underrated travel destination. Several celebrities even filmed vlogs enjoying Filipino food, beaches, and festivals. Every post attracted millions of viewers. The Philippines became a global talking point, not because of politics, but because of genuine human experiences shared online. Trump didn't foresee this outcome, but it had already become unstoppable. Americans loved the Philippines more with each passing month. Eventually, media analysts acknowledged what was happening. Trump had accidentally triggered one of the largest cultural rediscoveries in America. His comment frustrated some, angered others, but it sparked something undeniable, a curiosity so strong that people sought the truth for themselves. And the truth they found was beautiful. Americans realized the Philippines was not a place to fear, but a place to admire, respect, and experience. The movement spread from TikTok to CNN, from small vloggers to major publications. Tourism boards reported unprecedented engagement from the U.S., and Filipino embassies saw a rise in visa inquiries. Airline companies opened more direct flights. Hotels in Manila, Cebu, and Boracay reported increasing American bookings. What began as controversy now became economic growth, cultural exchange, and global unity. Filipinos proudly watched as their homeland received the recognition it long deserved. Americans proudly shared how the Philippines changed their perspective and their life. Back in the U.S., political commentators reacted with humor. Some joked that Trump unintentionally became the best promoter of Philippine tourism in American history. Others said his comment was proof that negativity can backfire, especially when aimed at a resilient culture like the Philippines. Whether people agreed or disagreed with him didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what millions of Americans discovered. The Philippines was not just a country. It was a treasure filled with culture, kindness, and unforgettable experiences. By now, the connection between Americans and Filipinos had grown stronger than ever. Many Americans thanked Filipinos for their hospitality, while Filipinos thanked Americans for giving their country a chance. Cultural collaborations increased, friendships multiplied, and social media created a continuous loop of inspiration. The Philippines wasn't just being visited, it was being loved. The initial controversy had been completely overtaken by positivity. The narrative had flipped entirely in favor of the Filipino people. In the end, Trump's comment became a symbol of irony, because instead of keeping Americans away, it sent them straight into the heart of the Philippines. What they found wasn't fear or danger, but beauty, kindness, connection, and culture. The more Americans explored the Philippines, the more they saw what Filipinos had always known. Their country is extraordinary. And as more Americans continue visiting, moving, and building relationships there, one truth stands clear. The Philippines didn't change because of Trump's words. Americans changed because they finally discovered the Philippines for themselves.